She was not an ordinary woman. Her features were beautiful in her 30s, elegant without affectation, modest without rigidity. She was married to a man she had loved since childhood, a marriage of choice and conviction. Yet for the sake of livelihood, he was forced to travel to a distant country. His work contract obliged him to stay away for a whole year, returning to his wife for only a week before leaving again. She accepted this arrangement reluctantly, seeing it as a sacrifice for a better future. At first, she endured, consoling herself with love, distracting herself with his letters, his voice recordings, and the presence of their only son. But eventually, none of it was enough. Loneliness became unbearable. Though the house was clean and food plentiful, the days dragged heavily. Every corner of the home screamed his name. She tried to fill the emptiness with housework, watching religious lessons, reading books. Yet at the end of each day, she sat on her bed, body cold, heart empty. In the same building lived a kind neighbor, a divorced woman with a teenage son. The neighbor often came to check on her, to reassure her. Over time, the son began accompanying his mother, sometimes helping with laundry, other times fixing a leaking faucet, or carrying groceries from the market. She thanked him often, and gradually his face became familiar, his presence in her home something ordinary. He was a well-mannered young man, raised with respect, treating her as though she were his aunt. He addressed her politely, lowering his gaze when she spoke. With time, she began to smile at him more, inviting him for lunch if he passed by at noon, offering him sweets she had made, thanking him profusely. None of this was improper, yet inside she felt something strange. His presence filled a silent void, an unseen opening in her heart that ached each night and slowly took root within her. One evening, the boy came to fetch something for his mother. It was cold outside. She went to bring the item, then asked gently if he wanted a cup of tea. He accepted shyly. He sat in the living room, and she sat opposite him. They spoke of general matters, but she noticed he kept his eyes on the floor, never raising them. She smiled. Her intention was not bad, but she found his shyness intriguing. When she handed him the cup, her hand brushed his. She trembled. She said nothing. He felt the awkwardness, apologized, and left quickly. That night she could not sleep. She kept thinking, am I sick? Is it wrong to crave warmth? Has my heart betrayed me? Then she convinced herself she was a mother, and what happened was mere coincidence. The next day, her neighbor visited briefly, then left her son to finish installing a shelf in the kitchen. She wore loose home pajamas, but when he approached to ask about the placement of the nails, she noticed again that he kept his eyes down. She laughed. "Why don't you look at me? I'm your aunt, not a stranger." But he said nothing, finished his work, and hurried out. On the third day, she dabbed on a little perfume and dressed more neatly. The young man came to help move some furniture. She smiled at him and said, "You've become strong. Your mother must be proud of you." He looked at her, flustered, and left without a word. Day after day, their encounters repeated. Each time she leaned toward him more, trying to involve him in the details of her life. She spoke of her longing for her husband, of the hardship of living alone. He listened, unsure how to respond. He had no experience, no ill intent, yet he felt something creeping into his heart. One time, she asked if he ever felt lonely. He said, "Sometimes, but it's nothing compared to your loneliness." She laughed. "Do you feel anyone's emptiness?" He did not answer. The next day, she deliberately asked him to change a light bulb in her bedroom. He stood on a chair while she watched from below, observing the details of his growing body, his masculine features. Boldly, she laughed and playfully nudged the chair, nearly causing him to fall. His heart fell, and with it his innocence, though he did not understand why he was doing this. That night, she walked through her home as though she were not walking on the ground. Everything inside her was unsettled. Intertwined thoughts, forbidden feelings, suppressed longing, and a deep wound with no cure. She knew she was standing at the edge of an abyss, yet no longer had the strength to step back. She was aware that what she felt was not natural, that these emotions were not logical, but she could no longer convince herself that her actions were innocent. Days passed in which she pretended to be calm. She watched the young man from afar, his shyness, his nervousness, his attempts to avoid her, and all those signs only made him more attractive in her eyes. In him she saw what she missed in her absent husband: presence, vitality, modesty, even the beauty of silence. One evening, her neighbor knocked on the door and said her son would come shortly to collect something they had forgotten during their last visit. She put on a light scarf, feigned busyness, and stood before the mirror, adjusting her hair and dress. The young man entered shyly as usual and asked for what they had come for. She looked at him calmly and said, "Sit for a while, I won't keep you long, just 5 minutes." Not wanting to embarrass her, he sat. The atmosphere was quiet, the lighting dim, everything suggested serenity. Yet inside both of them, a storm was raging. She began speaking, asking about his studies, his life. Then suddenly she asked, "Do you like girls?" He grew flustered, laughed and said, "Not now." She stepped closer, looked into his eyes and said, "Do you know you've become a man?" He did not answer. She felt the moment had come. She reached out, touched his hair, then his cheek, and said, "I feel so alone. Do you understand what it means to be alone, even when surrounded by people?" He remained silent. Her hand trembled, her heart pounded violently. Something inside him urged him to run, but he stayed frozen, paralyzed. Then suddenly she laid her head on his shoulder and whispered, "I am too weak to resist. Don't hurt me, just let me feel alive." In that moment he did not think, did not resist, he simply surrendered. Afterwards he awoke as if from a nightmare, terrified. He could not look at her face. He dressed quickly and left without a word. She sat on the bed, staring at the ceiling, her eyes brimming with tears. What had happened was not pleasure, but a wound. A wound that did not soothe her hunger, but deepened her bleeding. The day passed heavily. The young man did not visit, and she did not see his face. Both knew there was no turning back. The mistake had happened, and there was no way to erase it. Days went by. Each time she entered the bathroom and looked into the mirror, she hated herself. She felt she was a traitor, not only to her husband, but first to herself. Every night she cried and begged God for forgiveness. Sleep no longer came easily. The laughter she once shared with the neighbor's son now felt like daggers in her heart. The desire that had driven her to fall had turned into shame, tightening around her neck. One day, while scrolling through her phone, a video of a religious sermon appeared. The preacher's deep voice warned, "Beware of temptation, for it comes disguised as love, affection, and need. But it is fire, fire that burns the heart, the conscience, and faith itself." She broke down in tears, crying as she had never cried before. She felt God had sent her this sermon to awaken her. The next day, she went to the mosque, sat in a corner weeping, and asked one of the women to arrange a meeting with the sheikh. Sitting before him, her voice broken, she said, "Sheikh, I have fallen. My soul betrayed me. I was alone, and my devil was stronger than me. Now I am remorseful, and God knows I am remorseful." The sheikh looked at her and said, "God forgives all sins. Between you and repentance lies only a broken heart and a sincere tear." From that day, she repented. She changed her phone number, no longer allowed anyone into her home without another woman present. She joined a Quran study circle and began memorizing the Book of God. As for the young man, he left the neighborhood, and she never saw him again. To all who know her, she would say, "The most dangerous thing is emptiness, for it makes us seek warmth in the wrong places. Close your heart and fill it with God, not with people, for people vanish, but God alone remains." Did the story move you? Share it with those you love, and always remember, every closed door hides another door waiting to be opened. Just don't let your weakness decide your fate.